us to open with Frances Anne's film is because we as African people, when I was going to school, that caliber of Africans I'm speaking of, I knew every capital of the nation's capital on the continent. I knew all the rivers. I knew my history. I knew my traditional history, which was equally as important as the colonial education. And that's a problem because I wanted to, and that's a problem because these kids don't even know the capital of the country next door. And education was so important to that generation. And all these movements for liberation started in the diaspora, that intersection where Africa met her diaspora, the Caribbeans, the African Americans. That's when the awakening happened. When Kwame Nkrumah came here with a scholarship because the missionaries, some of the missionaries that went to Africa were Caribbean, by the way. They were not all whites like we think. When he got that to the historic black colleges, and my dad was part of that group. My dad went to Hampton, Kwame went to Lincoln. And that intersection where they met their counterparts, that's when something like Negritude in France, Présence Africains, the African Liberation, Pan-African Congress, that's when those things were formed. So for me, it was to thank our diasporan sisters and brothers for all the work they did. Someone like Harry Belafonte gave up a lucrative career because he was advocating for South African liberation, So we Africans need to step up, And for me, and I hope this gets broadcast because it's important. And it's not the young people, it's the quality of education now. And when you say we go back home and people build a large fence around their house and they have a guard, and they want to live a lifestyle because they've done so much in the diaspora, you have to dig your hands in deep and do more because those kids have gone through a lot on the continent as well. That's why they don't know who Frances Anne is when they go and they think it's someone white.
I think the problem is that young black people, young black men and women and young people, they grow up without a sense of their history. And so they don't know where they're going because they don't know where they come from.
So what can we do about that?
Tell stories.
Okay.
Yes.
Educate them. That's what we do.
Okay. I guess the other question is, if someone wants to get access to some of that film, do they go through the website to rent those films? Or?
Well, they can sign up because then they see where we are doing programs, and there are other people also. Of course, we're not the only show in town. I want to believe that we have maintained a consistency and quality of programming for almost 30 years. Next year, the organization is 30 years old, and the festival is 27 years old. So, but there are other people, other organizations, or other film programs that might include a title or two, or Pan-African, that are doing diaspora programming. So it's to be informed, and there are upsides to what Frances Anne was saying about young people, and at the same time, I feel that there are other things that we have done that make them not trust us, but now they have to reconcile, like she said, that backstory with what this knowledge and access and powerful tool of a technology they have. They need to know their backstory. They have to purge that sort of this how would you say, distrust of that backstory. Coming from a country like Sierra Leone, that civil war we have, I understand why a lot of young people don't trust adults. What we did to them. Even if I was in there putting a machete in a kid's hand or drugging them, that I don't know where that came from.
So what are you looking forward to in this festival? Do you have any, other than Francis' film, which I believe you love, do you have any particular films that you...
I love all of them. Come on. It's like saying which child you love the best. Right now,
well, I still have to...
That's why it's showing, and that is our North African sisters and brothers.
From Tunisia.
Yeah, and they're telling their story, and, and then tomorrow we have Then we have some of the classics, and then we have the short film programs, and we have. I mean, please.
So I cannot tell. I can tell you, like, for you to pick one place, like asking a parent to.
Yeah. Since we're here with Frances and we open with her film, but Frances knows if we are going to program a film, every film in the festival connects to the story of the theme.
Of the larger theme.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. As one of the producers of large festival, African festival, recently Netflix announced partnership with Africa. What do you think about that? About promoting more African films and telling more African stories? What do you think about that program?
I think Africa is the last frontier. Africa is going to be 1 billion people strong. I think we as African and African diaspora and people, I'm not looking at what Netflix or I just want to make sure that we're together, that when the siege comes, that we have there's no air coming between us, and that discussion, that we have formed partnerships, so we approach those discussions as a united front. That is what I want to see. I don't want to see one going to make their deal on the side. This is how divide and conquer started, and always we never fail to disappoint, because one will go behind, make their deal, one will go instead of us keeping one word. That's what I hope happens.
Beyond the festival, the organization also provides educational programs and resources to students and film directors and writers throughout the years.
The festival, we go in the summertime, we go into the communities, the people whose stories have been told. It's important that, we also go in and check in with them in their space, and their parks that have been beautified. And when we started the Outdoor Summer Series in 1999, it was kind of scary to go into the parks. Seriously, I mean, the lights were the light bulbs were not functioning. It was dark. You were hearing pops. I don't know if it was gunshots.
Are you talking about the Harlem area or just New York in general?
New York in general. But then now you go into these parks, there's, the lawns are mowed. You have these women who come in who are retired maybe. They come with their lawn chairs and their chill drinks. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And you have these intergenerational grandmothers bringing their grandkids to Governor's Island, for example, for storytelling or needle art, and their grandsons. And it's really empowering, to go back to your community, to tell them what has happened, check in with them, get their blessing, and encourage them to come to a space like this.
Over the year, how has the festival evolved over the 26 years from when you started the festival? And what is the secret, your secret, for it to stay this long, especially given the New York environment?
That's one of the good things about, the technology, where we have, when we first started, there was 35 and 60 millimeter films. You were relying on the distributors who were in Europe to make sure that they had subtitled the copy and that they were going to send it to you on time. And so today, with $5,000, the filmmaker can shoot their film, edit it at home, and send you a copy of it. And they have autonomy, And so in that sense, there are multiple stories coming out from all quarters, and all genres of stories have been told. And so in that sense, there's an abundance, and in fact, I feel so bad having to tell a filmmaker, your film that breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart, because there's some really great works. And then also, I feel that there are more collectives taking place. Like within the space of the festival, there's some of the young directors here who are in the diaspora, and they met in this space, and they're producing each other's work, or one is shooting for them, or one is writing or reading their script. So it's also a meeting point. Beyond we're more than just a festival. We're also a resource center. And I mean, sometimes you have the law courts calling to ask, where can I find a Fulani translator? Or I'm going to Botswana, I needed a local crew on the ground. How do we and everyone keeps saying you have to monetize that, but you're always thinking it's an opportunity for the artists. Let's do it. Let's just give the information. And so there's a lot of interest, but for me, I want to see how we can on a stake more than just, I'm finding a way where the collective can be solidified.
What can investors within the diaspora, within New York, what can businesses do to support the festival? What are you hoping?
I'm hoping that if there's an investor, that they invest in the artist's work and realize that it is about monetizing their returns or whatever, but you have to also first do it and foremost for the love of the art and culture and the history. Because
there needs to be, I feel like within our society there's a disconnect between what money means and what art is. I mean, and what we do, because I remember reading about the gift economy, that we as artists contribute a gift to society, which is a reflection of who we are, and it's an essential role, but it's not commercial in the normal sense. And I think it's really important for people to understand that it's like health or air. How do you put a value on that? The ability, like they used to call us, what is the word for storyteller in our culture?
Griots.
The griots.
Yes.
We have a role to play, which is to tell us who we are. And it is an essential role. And so if an investor is coming on, that's what he's doing. That's what that person is doing. You're investing in the soul of a people, in their understanding of who they are. And it's really important to understand that concept.
And looking forward to the next 26 years, what are you looking forward to do? What do you still want to do with the festival?
I want to find someone crazier than me who continues this.
It's essential. You have to think about succession planning.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have any idea in mind right now?
I do have several in mind, but then they're scared.
Why? Why do you think that? Why do you think they're scared?
I'm sure there's someone who's going to do it, but in general, it's a lot of work because 90% of it is the passion. To sustain that and to keep believing in what you're doing.
Especially in a country like this where there's
woman of color.
So it is important for this to continue. That's what you're saying. It is important.
Absolutely.
It is important for it to continue.
If it will continue, but I want it to continue with
the
us
right
at the
person.
helm.
Okay, with the right person. Okay.
Otherwise, it can continue, without us at the helm.
While honoring the past is important, so also is looking forward and planning for the future. The 5 rings, visionary, self-governance, and hope are some of the words used in describing the current generation. And just like the African pioneers before them, many people, Africans and non-Africa, are working together to recapture the defied visions and transform the continent into a better and greater continent. Helping people achieve their dreams and vision. Collaborating with others on something greater and better for the future of our society, of our nations, of our world, allow us not only to tap into the heroes within us and also be someone's hero. They allow us to set good example for future generations to model after. Let's tap into the hero within us to build a better society, a better nation, and a better world for the future generations.